Jane Marie Hart. I was born in the Depression, 1932. I came in with Roosevelt. I was born June 7th, 1932. There were 4 girls born. The third one died as a baby in Lambertville, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Pop. Good.
Harry H. Hart. I was born November 6, 1929. What else?
You have 5 sisters.
Huh?
5 sisters and 5 brothers.
4 brothers, 3 brothers.
You're the oldest.
I had 10 brothers and sisters altogether.
You're the oldest.
Huh?
You're the oldest.
I'm the oldest.
All right, and did you grow up in Lambertville your whole life?
Born in the house.
Born and raised.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in the house that I was in until I got married.
Mm-hmm.
The garage.
And I was born at home,
Mm-hmm.
on the 2nd floor, in the back bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want me to go on?
Yeah, go ahead, say whatever
Then
you want.
when I was 5, I went to St. John's.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 older sisters, and they all went before I did at school. Loved school, really loved school.
Mm-hmm.
Loved education. Loved to, I never stopped learning, and I think that's the most important thing. My father was that he pushed all the time. He had very little education. He had like 6th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and all his life that bothered him. And so he wanted us all to mature. He told my sister, the oldest one, who hated school and wanted to leave, that get it out of her head, because he didn't care if she was walking up the aisle to get a diploma with a cane. She was staying in that school until she graduated. And that was the most important thing to him.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Nurses communicated.
Oh,
Tell him you like fishing, and
This is patient satisfaction.
Went hunting and fishing. Graduated from high school, couldn't get a job, couldn't find any work, so joined the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Brick was the second.
And that's it, got married at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
And then didn't you go to, where'd you go, Texas or Georgia or somewhere?
well, he was in the
When I
Korean.
came back
Yeah.
from Korea.
He was in the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't go down until the last about 6 months that he was in the service.
Mhm.
I worked in the bag mill. I love that too. and then after that, I worked in the bag mill until I was pregnant for Kenny, my 2 sons, Kenny and Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked in the bag mill until I had Kenny. Then when he was born, then I went to work in a lace place. And I liked that too, except it was very dirty. And you couldn't go anywhere after you get done, you just had to go home because they used graphite instead of oil, to oil the machines.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got pregnant for Dennis. And so at the lace mill, the guy says to me, if you come back, I really could use you. If you come back, you can work whatever you want. You can come in early, leave, or whatever you want. So that was nice while he was still a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was there, they advertised for a librarian assistant at the high school. And I knew that of all the people, because I have read all my life, and I went there to work, and I worked there for 40 years. Later on, I became the guidance secretary and the athletic secretary, and everything. I absolutely loved the job. Would not have. My mother had often said that they should have found the money to send me to college,
Mm-hmm.
and I always told her, "Don't let that bother you. I loved what I did. I couldn't have done anything better."
Mhm.
So.
Papa, what about the?
You went to work.
What?
You went to work for your father. With your father. After the service.
Went to work building houses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I know.
You built
That's
this
all I
house,
knew.
right?
Huh?
You built this house, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then he went to Princeton.
What?
You went to Princeton to work.
Then I got a job at Princeton University for 20 years over there.
Mhm.
Best move I ever made.
And can you tell me about the service? What was that like?
Cold.
Not to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
It was cold, I'll tell you that,
Yeah.
for one thing.
Didn't you go right? Thanksgiving is when you left, right?
He went to Okinawa first.
Yeah.
I was
And
on
then,
Okinawa for
Mhm.
5 months, I guess. And I went to Japan,
Mhm.
and I went to Korea from there.
Mhm.
Another boat ride.
Mhm. So very cold.
another thing that I was really lucky, there was a education association in Flemington, and they ran trips, which would never have gone on.
Mhm.
And the first one I went on was in Russia.
Yep.
And I loved the Russian trip, seeing the Winter Palace and the Summer Palace. It was gorgeous.
Mhm.
And and while I was in Russia, my grandson Andrew was born.
Mhm.
And they called me in Russia to let me know that he was born. Then I went to, and when the day that my great-grandchildren were born, Andrew and Casey, Alyssa and Kyle, I start putting money away and said, when you grow up, get older, we're going to go on a trip wherever. And when they were in like sophomore and junior year of college or senior year, we went to Italy, which was fabulous. We had such a wonderful time. And I had gone to England and I went to Ireland, all on these trips from the Education Association. And I never would have seen all these places unless they had that. And then someone complained because they ran a trip and said it wasn't right, that wasn't education. And so they made them stop doing the trips.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. And my sister Betty went wherever, and her and Nan both died the same year.
Mhm.
I don't remember what the year it was, but they both died the same year.
Mhm.
So, and my grandchildren the two oldest ones were the same age, and the two younger ones, and the two older ones, one graduated from, Casey graduated from Albright, and Andrew graduated from Wagner, and the two younger ones, Kyle will graduate this year from William Patterson as a phys ed major, and my granddaughter Alyssa goes to George Washington University, which she will probably be going forever because she loves school the same as I do, and she's going for her master's. So they've all been through school.
Mhm. Okay, we have 2 questions from Dennis. Pop up. My dad wants to know what kind of a student were you in school?
What?
What kind of a student were you?
I got by, that's all.
Yeah. He wants to know if you ever got in trouble for anything.
No.
No?
Because he fished all the time.
Yep.
What?
You fished all the time. So
How about did you play any sports in high school?
Basketball.
Mhm.
I went out for football for 4 years and I never finished a year. Knees always went.
Mhm. And my mom was the cheerleader.
I was a cheerleader. I played basketball. And the yearbook said, first off, I was 5 foot tall. The yearbook under my name said, she's small but mighty on the basketball court. And I was in the plays at school.
Mhm. How about what was it like growing up in the Depression?
You know, what affects your life is a lot when you were born. And I was born in a depression. And the thing that I really took away from, you didn't know it because everybody was as poor as you were. And you learned that you didn't get everything you wanted. And once you got it, you really thought it was wonderful.
Mhm.
But it wasn't that you felt like you had to have everything, because it didn't make you a different person or anything when you finally got it, because you waited a long time. And if you've never had the experience of wanting something so bad, and then realizing, oh, I'll never get it, and get it, it's a wonderful experience,
Mhm.
because I don't know, the kids get everything now, so nothing means anything.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Dennis and Kenny, they never got like mopeds or any of that. But footballs or basketballs, anything to make an activity was great. And Dennis one time wanted it was called a Jimmy Jet.
Mm-hmm.
And he would go in the store and he would just gaze at this thing.
Yeah.
And I would say to him, my mother would say, "Oh, you've got to get it." And I said, "No, I'm not getting it." "Well, I'm going to get it for him because I may not be here next year,"
Yeah.
which was the thing every year. And that thing was like 3 days. It was a plastic thing, and it was all apart.
Mm-hmm.
So, some things you think you want, so be it. And but I think we've had a wonderful life.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I liked every bit of it.
Mm-hmm. What about you? Like going to the gym and working
Oh,
out?
absolutely. I think kids should learn as early as possible that to keep exercising. You know, some days you may not feel it, but there are things if you have something really bothering you, and you get your sneaks on and head out the road walking. If I don't run, I wish I could.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you come back clear-headed. You have the whole thing solved in your head,
Mhm.
so it's wonderful, and it's just part of living. That's what they've got to make it part of their life today, because you don't move around as much. You get in the car and you go here, and you get in the car to go there, and so I think the gym is really important. If you can do it on your own, if you can run, I mean, that's wonderful. But if you go to a gym, get yourself into something where you have to be there for a class so that you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I love exercise. Exercise and reading are my passions.
Mm-hmm. And you guys liked watching the Phillies and the
And the
Eagles?
Yep.
Yep. Even though the Eagles haven't been so good lately.
Yes. Yes. They need help. But
Yep.
I do like sports. I think kids should play sports.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes that's the only exercise they really get.
Hey, Dad. Dad,
What?
come ask a question.
What?
Come ask a question. Yeah, come. You don't have to be on the camera.
No, I don't want to.
All right. Well, anything else you can think of you want to say?
No, I just wish the best for all my kids. I wish they're just happy. You know, just be happy and don't make a big deal out of the little things. I remember a man hit my car, and he broke the mirror, and Kyle says to me, "Boy, I bet you were mad." I said, "Kyle, it's a mirror. I mean, why are you gonna get angry at somebody because they broke the mirror?" So just handle the little things. Don't let the little things interfere with the big things,
Mm-hmm.
and be happy.
Anything you want to say, Pop-Up?
I have nothing to say.
Okay.
That's been all his life.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a lot to say. I do all the talking.
Mm-hmm. Dad, anything you want to ask?
How did you get this piece of property?
It was his grandfather,
What?
and the grandfather.
How'd you get this ground?
My Aunt Hazel had it.
Yeah.
She owned the property. This
Well, the
property?
three of them owned it, I think.
I don't know who all owned it. My Aunt Hazel ended up with it, and I bought it.
We bought it for $100, and the only
$100.
reason we did the $100 was because his
$100.
uncle that lived in Titusville, Hazel, said you better give him $100 or he'll be carrying on.
Oh.
But it's only
Norman.
it's 2 lots,
Yeah.
and so that's how we got
Now,
it.
who was he? Hazel's brother?
Brother.
Yeah, the brother.
Was she ever married?
No,
Yeah.
no. Hazel never married. She had dogs.
She had dog statues, I know, all over the
And
house.
when she died, she had it that dog was to be put away.
Oh, yeah?
When she got planted, the dog got planted.
Yeah, the dog.
Was that a
was to be-
bulldog, was
Yeah,
it?
she always had
I
little
remember that.
bulldogs.
Yeah, little About that big.
She was
Now,
wonderful to these kids.
Who was Grammy Johnson that we used to go visit on Clinton Street?
Grammy Johnson was
Herb's mother?
Grandmom's mother.
Mom Johnson's mother.
Right, Uncle Irvin and
Uncle Irv's mother.
Helen, his mother. And there was another one, Donald, and she raised them.
Donald was Grandmom's brother? Uncle Donald?
Yes.
Yeah.
So his wife was my
Aunt.
godmother,
Yes. Yeah.
Armida.
Armida.
Yeah. And
Where'd they live, in Clifton?
Clifton.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, she. But Grandmom, not Mom Johnson. Grandmom left school early because the father took off, and the mother had to work, so she took off. But Uncle Irvin went on to
Uncle
both
Irvin was
went
wounded, Battle of the Bulge.
Battle of the Bulge.
He was in the Army.
Yep.
Drafted at the bottom of the barrel.
And your cousin Walter was killed at...
My father had two sisters, and one of ours was killed in World War II.
Did Irvin in the Army?
My brother?
Your brother, yeah.
He was a photographer.
He was in the same time I was in Korea.
He was? Same time? Oh, I didn't know that.
He was a
I
photographer.
didn't know it either.
Oh, no?
He was a photographer.
He was on the signal corps. He'd come up and take some pictures and then go back and get a warm bed and a hot meal.
No kidding. Then you came home and they had a big parade for the Korean soldiers when you came home?
The Second World War, I don't think there's ever been anything like it. People paraded, I swear to God, for a week. It would come like 6 o'clock and everybody got home from work, and they'd be out on the streets parading after that war. And they never talked much about that war. That was the thing in the Second World War. And
But-
everybody was involved. Everybody, from little kids would save 10 cents to buy a stamp. And when you bought the book full, it was 1875, then you got a bond.
Mhm.
And the kids were involved. You were involved in everything. You saved the foil off your gum. They used to have that wrapped in foil. You saved foil. You made it in a ball, and then you gave it to the government.
They gave you coupons for what food you could get, right?
Oh yeah, you had to have stamps.
Ration book.
And you had a ration book, and that was for everything. Shoes, and that's why I always thought I had bunions, because my mother found one time that there was a pair of shoes she could get without stamps, and I always thought they were too small, and I wore them. But that turned out that that's hereditary, so it wasn't. It wasn't the shoes. But you had stamps. You had stamps for everything. Food, fruit, canned food.
Butter. In high school still with the outhouses in the backyards?
I don't know. I don't know whether they removed it or not. The person who bought it. My mother lived in that same house until my father died in 1981, and then she came to live with us, and she sold the house. But Kenny remembers that she really didn't like selling it. I think it was $36,000.
Yeah.
And she kept saying, "Oh no, that's too much. That's too much." And but it's still there.
The one down Lambert.
Yeah, the one on Coriel Street. And my father's house is on South Union Street.
His pop's house was in the flood of '55, and the water came up, probably the highest in his house of anybody, because it was just below the ceiling. And they were getting
About an
ready.
inch off the second floor.
And they were getting ready to go move because they had moved everything upstairs.
Mhm.
And then they were trying to decide whether they better go get that stuff out from upstairs when the flood stopped. But it was very close to the ceiling.
This house was loaded with stuff from people downtown.
Oh.
Yeah.
Furniture and what have you, everything.
So that was the year Kenny was born, 55.
I remember this house.
That river was coming up a foot an hour.
Wow.
It had a ruler nailed on the tree. A foot an hour.
What were you saying about this house?
I remember we were kids. Our room was in the other room. And you didn't finish the upstairs, right? What did you do? As soon as you got some money, you would put it in the house, or
I never took a loan for anything. I just the money that I made when I worked was to do that stuff. What Pop made, so that's why when I went to Toll Lace, I just go in and I work real hard. And I say, oh, I'm not coming in for a few days. I never let that money be that important. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we wait a little longer to get storm windows or whatever, but whatever I made, that's what we used to fix everything up.
I remember being a little kid sitting while you were putting the floor in upstairs with that big hammer, putting the hardwood floors in.
Mhm.
I don't know how old I was.
And
I don't
Liberace.
know.
Tell him to still
Yeah. What about, didn't Liberace come and watch you
Yeah, Liberace sit in the backyard and watched us.
build this house because of the music circus that was...
Yeah, that was the wonderful thing. The music circus was there from
That was a pain, I'll tell you.
about 51.
You couldn't
It's
get
about
in and out.
51 to, and then it finally, in fact, my father worked at the music circus for a while. And then after they moved from where up here to down the road a ways.
Right up here.
But
Didn't
great shows,
work
I
out.
saw wonderful shows. I loved it. You had to get in or out. If you were going out, you had to get out by 7 o'clock. But that didn't bother me.
Because of all the
any.
traffic.
Traffic, because
It
of
was
the...
one lane,
the road
one
was-
lane dirt road.
And,
With a
That's
giant
the road was still
entertainment
dirt.
place.
But I saw some wonderful, a lot of people got their start there. The other thing they did over there...
Shirley
like
MacLaine
Monday
got her
night-
start there, right?
Yep,
Shirley MacLaine?
Monday nights, they got so they'd have bands. But Duke Ellington was here for like 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And I'd go to bed and listen to Duke Ellington playing over there.
Wow.
I just loved it. Some people didn't, like you were saying, you couldn't get in or out, but so what? If I'm going out, I'll go out before 7.
Didn't Dick Buttons come over here once too?
No, Dick Buttons I used to go over a lot of times. Sometimes I'd go over and just have coffee over at the stand. But Dick Buttons, they had an ice skating show. And I took Kenny over. We were going to go to Flemington to the movies, but I took Kenny over to look in and see what they were doing. And Dick Buttons, who was a big ice skater, he said, come on. And he took Kenny, but I said, no, I'm going to the store. And that ice skating show, though, he had to keep water running all the time. So several people who weren't happy up here because they lost their wells. So, but that was a great thing. I love that. But today you wouldn't do it because they had big bands. They'd never be able to afford.
Liberace.
But it was great. I loved it. I don't know. I used to take Kenny. Dennis was a couple of years younger, but I would take Kenny to New York to shows because that same education thing that I went on trips with used to go into New York and see shows. So he was very young when he started going to New York
Mm-hmm.
to see shows, and I hope that influenced him later on to really enjoy the theater. I love that.
Well, what you do every Saturday night?
We all go to the movies.
No, Saturday night.
Saturday
When we were
night.
young.
Oh, when I was young, we were young.
When I,
And we had
when I was young.
when you were young, we used to go to the movies.
We went to the stock car races
Oh,
every
that's
Saturday night for 20 years.
Oh, that's right. We went to stock car races.
From
Freeze your
Flemington
ass off,
Speedway.
too.
Nan loved it. Nan used to start, and then she took Kenny when he was little, and then we all start going every Saturday night to the stock car races.
Mm-hmm.
And we liked that. We used to go to the movies, maybe we went Friday nights, because we used to go to the movies, too. Today you wouldn't be able to afford to
The
take...
movies in the wintertime.
We liked the movies.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Oh, as a teenager, I really feel bad for the kids. As a teenager, we really were looked after. Even, St. John's had they owned where the city office is. And they opened it up to teenagers. And there was one room that was a dance room, there was one room that was a game room, there was 2 pool tables, 2 ping pong tables, and as soon as you got home from school, you headed right up to the club,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd go home to eat and go back up. And they had a Nickelodeon, didn't cost any money. You just played the records, and that's where everybody went. And the town then, too, they would have fishing contests every year. it seemed like the police and the state police, and there were several adults that really took charge of things. Like at Christmas, they would go around with toys and things, and I remember this Mr.
The
McGuire
combined charities again.
had a trailer, and they'd take Santa Claus would go all around, and they did a lot for kids. They would have contests in the canal, swimming contests and fishing contests. They did a lot for kids.
Dive off the bridge on Bridge Street, and swim down past the aqueduct by the house. Race back.
Yeah.
They did a lot for them.
I saw those old movies of the state police doing the swim races in the canal. There were Bubby Gallo, I remember, and
Right. Yeah, they did a lot for kids then. And kids were all, I mean, you went out in the morning, you came home and ate lunch and went out. You came home and ate dinner and went out.
Mhm.
You'd stay home. But I had a good life, I really did.
Hell, we used to go out in the morning and didn't come back till it got dark. Take a couple potatoes with you, build a fire, roast them, that's it.
Yeah, it was a good life.
Them days are gone, that's it.
Although Kyle does something that I like. Once a year, they float down the river, with a canoe down, and they go on one of the islands and stay overnight. So a couple of years ago, they got on the island, and there was a group of older men, and he said they had everything. They had steaks and everything else, and the old guys were so happy to see these kids, to know that this was a tradition that the younger ones were going to do,
Mhm.
which was really neat. I like that idea.
Mhm.
So,
Kyle floats down the river too with the tubes, right?
they do. Yeah, well, they do that at least once a year.
Yeah.
They all tube down from Bull's Island or Stockton. Somebody
It's
takes
like it's getting foggy out.
some of them to the
Snowing.
tubes up to Stockton, and they come down.
Mhm.
I never was great around water.
It's still snowing.
I'd swim like a rock, and I never felt comfortable around water.
Go to the beach a lot though now, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
I don't love the beach.
I don't
And
even
the reason,
remember learning how to swim.
the reason I really, it makes it nice too, because Dennis and his family live at the beach, and Kenny has a house there, so we get to see each other more than we would normally see them. So
Mhm.
that's nice.
Very
I love
good.
family. I'll tell you, I don't know what it must be like for people whose family. Because today, when you read an obituary today, it'll be one kid lives in Georgia, the other kid lives up in Boston,
Mhm.
the other kid lives in Tennessee, and I think family and grandparents are important. They're important to
He's
the
out.
kids, I think, as well as they
Mhm.
are to the grandparents. So it was good.
All
So-
right.
I was just going to say, is this movie going to be a
Yeah.
3-hour movie?
Anything else? If not, we'll shut it off. All
It
right.
was very good.
I got nothing to say.
All right.
That's
All
how we
right.
started it, and that's
Bye
how-
bye.